Disobedience. Law never made men more just, and, by means of their respect for it, even the well-disposed are daily made the agents of injustice. A common and natural result of an undue respect for law is that you may see a file of soldiers, colonel, captain, privates and all, marching in admirable order over hills to the wars, against their wills, indeed, against their common sense and consciences. They have no doubt that it is a damnable business in which they are concerned. They are all peaceably inclined. Now, what are they? Men at all? Or small movable forts at the service of some unscrupulous man in power? The mass of men serve the state thus, not as men mainly, but as machines, with their bodies. They are the standing army. In most cases, there is no free exercise whatever of the judgment or of the moral sense, but they put themselves on a level with wood and earth and stones. And wooden men can perhaps be manufactured that will serve the purpose as well. Such people command no more respect than men of straw or a lump of dirt. They have the same sort of worth only as horses and dogs. Yet, such as these are commonly considered good citizens. Henry David Thoreau, from Civil Disobedience. Many of the abominable problems in the world are the result of obedience. In our personal lives, in the media, we cry and moan and blame our leaders for the problems of the world. We shift responsibility to them. But are they solely responsible? What about the thousands and millions who are actually carrying out their orders? These people are the ones actually doing the terrible things that their leaders want done. These people have abandoned their conscience and have abandoned their responsibility. Can such people be considered adult human beings at all? Or are they still children or dogs, dutifully obeying their master parent? Think of the American soldiers currently in Iraq. In the end, it is not George Bush who is pulling the trigger or dropping the bombs or torturing the prisoners. He merely gives the orders which no particular man or woman must follow. For, while they might be discharged or put in prison for refusing an order, no one will be hurt or killed for doing so. Isn't Thoreau correct? Aren't our true heroes the ones who disobey unjust laws? Aren't the true heroes the ones who follow their conscience? Here in America, it is our rebels who are our historical heroes. Those who refuse to support injustice. Martin Luther King, the heroes of the American Revolution, John Brown, Malcolm X, Susan B. Anthony, Vietnam War resistors. In the present, such people are always condemned. They are attacked, called unpatriotic, imprisoned, and vilified. Yet, history is usually kind to such people and harsh to the unjust. In the 1950s, Martin Luther King was vilified as a radical. Today, he is celebrated as a hero, while the authorities he resisted are now viewed as the worst kind of scum. Thoreau, and later Gandhi and Martin Luther King, all believed that individual conscience was more just and powerful than law. All three encouraged people to break unjust laws and to instead have respect for what is good, right, true, and just. Though all three men are now dead, their message is as important today as it was during their lifetime. Thoreau was a great writer, philosopher, poet, and a most practical man. That is, he taught nothing he was not prepared to practice in himself. He was one of the greatest and most moral men America has produced. Mohandas Gandhi. Hello, and welcome to the Effortless English vocabulary for disobedience. Okay, I'm going to talk about the word just. Just is an important word. It's a different meaning than the word just when you say, I just want to go to sleep. In that case, just means only, right? I only want to go to sleep. But in this case, in this article, just means good or fair. It comes from the word justice. Okay, so it means goodness or to be good, fair, correct. That's what just means. All right. little bit later, I use the first paragraph, Thoreau, in the Thoreau quote, I use the word admirable, or he uses the word admirable. Admirable means should be admired. And admired means to think good things about someone, to think someone is good. So if someone is admirable, it means you should think they are good. Wow, he's a good person. He is an admirable person. All right, I use the phrase against their wills, or against your will, or against his will. Against your will means against your choice. It means you do something, but you don't want to do it. Maybe you must do it, but it's against your will. You don't really want to. All right, we use there's a word here, conscience. Conscience, in this case with a C, S-C-I-E-N-C-E. Your conscience is your feeling for right and wrong. What is right and what is wrong. It's how you decide. If you think, oh no, this is bad, this is good. That's your conscience. If you say, he has a strong conscience, it means he always thinks about what is right and what is wrong. He never wants to hurt people. That's conscience. All right, the end of that first paragraph, you'll see the word unscrupulous. An unscrupulous man in power. Unscrupulous, we use it to describe people usually, maybe a company. And unscrupulous means you don't care about right or wrong. It means you do not have a conscience. You only care about power. That's all you care about. Unscrupulous. All right, the next paragraph, you'll see the phrase the state. The is important here. The state means the country or the nation. All right, in the next sentence, you'll see the phrase standing army. A standing army is a permanent army. It means an army that's always ready. So America has a standing army. It's a professional army. It's not temporary. All right, you'll see the word manufactured in that paragraph. Manufactured means made. The verb to manufacture means to make something. All right, you'll see the phrase lump of dirt. A lump of dirt is a round piece of dirt, like a ball of dirt. A lump is something that's kind of round, a small round thing. We call that a lump. If I hit you on the head with a rock, your head will get a lump on top of it. Okay, next, so that's the end of the quote. Next paragraph, I use the word abominable. I say many of the abominable problems in the world. Abominable means terrible, horrible, really, really bad. Abominable. Obedience, it's an important word for this article. Obedience is a noun. The verb is to obey. Obedience means you do what other people tell you to do, right? You follow other people. You follow your boss, or you follow your parents, or you follow the president. That's obedience. That's the noun. If the action is actually called to obey, right? Obey. All right, the next sentence, I use the word moan. Moan is this sound. Oh, oh. It's a sound you make when you're hurt. If you're hurt, oh, oh. And it also sometimes has the idea of criticizing someone, right? Oh, he's terrible. Oh, she's horrible. She's bad. You're moaning. Okay. I use the word solely in that paragraph. Solely responsible. It means only responsible, right? Solely means only. And at the end of that paragraph, I use the word abandoned. These people have abandoned their conscience. To abandon something means to leave it forever, or to get rid of it. If a mother, abandons her children, she takes her children, she puts them somewhere, and she goes away. She never sees her children again. She has abandoned her children. All right, next page of the learning guide. You'll see the word soldiers. Of course, a soldier is someone in the army, an army man or army woman. Talk about pulling the trigger. The trigger is part of a gun. It's the part you pull. You pull the trigger, that little piece of metal, and then the gun shoots. I use the word torturing. It comes from the verb to torture. To torture is to hurt someone. You try to hurt someone. But it means to hurt someone who has no power. They're helpless, maybe a prisoner or a child or something. So you hurt them, you hit them, you beat them, you do terrible things to them. That's called torture. It's a noun or a verb. All right, and then at the end of that part, at the end of that paragraph, I use the verb to refuse an order. To refuse something means to say no. Someone asks you to do something or tells you to do something, but you say, no, I won't do it. That means you're refusing, right? I refuse. I will not do it. So refuse is a little bit like a word in the next paragraph, which is disobey. Disobey, it has a similar meaning, a close meaning. It means, disobey means not obey. Do not do what someone tells you to do. You do not follow orders. And you'll see the word unjust. Unjust is the opposite of just. So unjust means bad. An unjust law is a bad law. It's a law that hurts people. So Thoreau and Gandhi and Martin Luther King, they all said, disobey unjust laws. Do not follow bad laws. Okay, and these people were rebels. You'll see in the same paragraph the word rebels. A rebel is a person who fights the government. They go against the government. Martin Luther King was a rebel. Gandhi was a rebel. Many famous people were rebels. They fought against a government at some time. All right, at the end of that same paragraph, you see the phrase Vietnam War resistors. A resistor is a person who resists. Okay, of course. And to resist, the verb means, it's a little bit like refuse, but it has the idea of going against something, fighting against something, or trying to stop something. So a Vietnam War resistor is a person who tried to stop the Vietnam War. An Iraq War resistor is someone who is trying to stop the Iraq War. Next paragraph. I say that these people, Martin Luther King, Gandhi, Thoreau, they are always condemned in the present, means during their life. People condemn them. To condemn means to criticize, to say very bad things about someone, to blame them, to say they are wrong, right? So when Gandhi was alive, many British people, especially the government, they said, he's bad, Gandhi's terrible. The same thing, Martin Luther King. Many people in the 1950s, they said, Martin Luther King is a bad guy, he's terrible. All right. And I say they are vilified. These people are vilified. To vilify someone is to describe them as being evil. You say they are evil, terrible people. That's vilify. So Martin Luther King was vilified during his life. Gandhi was vilified by some people. Thoreau also. All right. I say during the 1950s, Martin Luther King was vilified as a radical. A radical is someone who wants very big changes. They want to change a lot of things, especially the government. Now it has a little bit of a negative meaning, and it has the idea of someone who might be violent. Of course, Martin Luther King was not violent, and so, was he a radical? I don't know. He did want big changes, but he was not violent. So a radical, someone who wants big changes. All right, and then I say, next paragraph, the authorities he resisted are now viewed as scum. The authorities, you need the or the in front. If those two together usually it means the government. It means people with power, the authorities. And scum is an insult. It's a bad word. Don't call someone a scum unless you hate them. A scum is a low-class person, a really bad person. Maybe a criminal, maybe someone with no education who's very terrible, bad person. Scum. All right, and finally the word lifetime means, of course, the time that someone lived. Martin Luther King's lifetime, he lived in the 40s, 50s, 60s. Gandhi lived, late 1800s, 1900s through World War II, etc. Thoreau lived in, 1840s, 1850s, etc. Okay, that's it for today's vocabulary. I went fast today. So, if you don't understand the first time, listen again. That's the magic of MP3s. You can listen many, many times. Repeat this many times. The repetition, the repeating will help you a lot. It's easier than trying